Okay. All right, this is Ed Dowling. I'd like to welcome you to the August meeting of the Board of Police Commissioners. I'd like to start our meeting per our regular process with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Well, I didn't think we'd be back in the Zoom mode as quickly as we have been, unfortunately. But we are, I think, certainly going to follow the guidelines as the situation evolves. So we will continuing to monitor it, and as this virus and the cases unfold, we will certainly either continue going forward or make an adjustment back to our regular in-person session. So, I really appreciate the understanding, including members of the public who have got to monitor, where is the meeting, but we will try to make sure we get the information as soon as the decision is made on our website, so people can access it in the most convenient way possible. So with that, is there a motion to accept our July minute meeting?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Okay. Discussion, are there any correction or adjustments to the July minutes? Hearing none, is there all those in favor of accepting the July minutes as written? Let's say aye.
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 Holly, thank you very much. I think you're well in the swing of kind of capturing what is being said in a way that's very readable. So thank you for your attention to this. As we've normally done, we'd like to have any public comments at the start of the meeting to make it as convenient as possible for members of the public and residents of Madison. So are there any residents who would like to make public comments at this time?
Oh, we have one hand up, sir.
Okay.
Jerry Birnbaum.
Yeah, if you're anyone who's making comments, if you could just state your name and your residence, please.
Jerry, you're muted.
There. Okay, am I all in now?
Oh, perfect.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for inviting me to your meeting, and thank you for your service. I'm going to cover two subjects tonight, okay? And it's basically it's safety and signage around town. And I'd sort of like to take you on a virtual tour, if I could, from West Wharf all the way around down the end of Liberty Street, and then back around up to East Wharf, okay, if I may, okay?
Mr. Berman, how long will the tour take?
I hopefully not too long, but I hope I get my point across, okay?
Okay,
No, I'm doing verbally, okay?
fine, okay.
Okay, so I'm taking off, I'm in my car and I'm heading up West Wharf, and I take a right-hand turn onto Middle Beach. There's a huge privet hedge there. Okay, I think it's time that the police commission and commissioners and the chief think about a stop sign at this intersection. Okay, I think it's a real danger zone here. And then proceeding down Middle Beach, we come to the four-way stop that was recently put in. And I'd like to make a couple comments about that, okay? it sort of came out of nowhere. And then when it was placed, there were masks on these signs. And these signs were masked for about 7 to 10 days. And it was real confusion at that point, at that intersection. Some people were stopping at the white lines. Other people were just flying right through. And also, I'd like to say that I think that if those signs were set up in the beginning of May, it would have been better off getting the people ready for this before the summer season came. As I look up Island Avenue now, and I am one of these people that really does not like signage too much, but we now are peppered with signs that share the road signs every 100 yards up and down the road. Okay, it's just a personal thing with me, and I think other people feel about it the same way. It just takes away, I think it's just visual pollution. Okay, so now we're going to go down and we're going to come to Tuxas. Okay, we're going back down Island Avenue. We come around to Tuxas. At one time, there was a walkway across from Tuxas, painted there. It's no longer there. And I think there ought to be a sign there. Believe it or not, I'm going to request a sign after I said that. I think there ought to be a sign there that says, pedestrians, please use the crosswalk there. Okay, they have been told to walk against traffic by the signs along the shore, and now here we are at this dangerous intersection where Jane Maurer lives. You all know that section. Okay, so I'd like to just proceed down the road from there. Okay, and then I want to just go all the way around down to Liberty Street, up Waterbury, down to Liberty Street, and there's a 1,500-foot area where you can see the stop sign at Boston Post Road and Liberty. Okay. About 1,000 feet previous to that, there's a sign that says, get ready, there's a stop sign coming up. It really doesn't make any sense when you have a stop sign there and a red flashing light. Okay, I think that's overdoing it a bit. Okay, so I'd like to go down Boston Post Road and
Can I interject here?
Yeah.
I live in this neighborhood. I have no idea what you're talking about. A stop sign at Liberty and Route 1?
Liberty and Route 1.
It's a stop light.
There's a pre-stop sign, like warning you that there's a stop sign.
But there's not a stop sign. There's a stop light.
No, it's a flashing red light.
So you're at the end, the other
Of
end.
Liberty Street. We're right where Hammonasset, the white part, okay? Signal Hill and Boston
Yep,
Post.
okay. Thank you.
Marietta, we have you all set? You know where
We're
I
set.
am?
Yep. Sorry. Some of this is, you're going so fast. It's Tuxas and Island Avenue, but you're talking about a sidewalk, which is at Tuxas and Middle Beach. So it's a little confusing.
Okay. Ed told me to get it over quick, I thought, so I was trying to go as fast as I could. Is everybody clear on that, what I've been saying so far about the
I
intersection?
think we're with you.
Okay, so I'm gonna go down, and pardon me if I use the name Birnbaum Lane right here. Okay, I'm gonna turn around and I can come out of Bushnell where I live and come down onto down Birnbaum Lane and turn onto East Wharf. I had a very funny thing happen to me the other day because I'm very concerned about right on red there. And this area is sort of like a hybrid. Sometimes the state wants to take control. Sometimes the town wants to control. It's a hybrid version down here. And there was a huge crew from the Department of Transportation down there checking out the new light down there. And I yelled across the street in a kind and gentle manner. I says, how about no right on red here? We know there are accidents down there because I witnessed one just 2 weeks ago. So, okay, so that's another area that I like to see done with. Now we turn down onto East Wharf, and every 100 yards, and I realized that it was during COVID and the traffic problems with Hammonasset. Every 100 yards, there's a sign that says, no parking anytime. What is confusing here is underneath that sign is a residents only parking sign. Okay, so Does this mean when we get to the horrible turn at East Wharf, okay, that residents may park on that corner? How do you interpret that? It's very confusing signage. My recommendation would be where there's a sign that says there's a dangerous curve coming up, I'd like to see a 15-mile-per-hour sign put underneath that, because this is a treacherous area as it stands right now. So, and that's my virtual tour. I know you guys have got a really tough time, but looking down the road, I don't think we're going to be able to sign our way out of a lot of these things by placing signs. When this whole area is repaved, you're going to see an onslaught of rollerbladers, skaters, I mean, people on skis with rollers. You might even have scooters. It is going to be far worse when this road gets paved. I think the only way that you're going to be able to do anything with this is just having a patrolman down there monitoring this thing. And it's the only way we're going to get out of this. I must congratulate the police force on stopping the speeders down East Wharf this past weekend. I love the motorcycle guy stopped and said thank you for him because that was sorely needed in that area with all the traffic. So that's my spiel for the night. Was that quick enough, Mr. Dowling?
Mr. Berman, that was fine. Thank you very much.
How'd you like that, Chief? Was that all right?
I didn't know you were a mentalist when it comes to signage.
Okay, so my final comment would be that excessive use of signage, really ends up, the effectiveness it is really lessened the more signage. And with that, I stop. And thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Have a pleasant evening.
Thank you. Keith?
I just want to, Jerry, you still there?
Yep.
Okay. A lot of areas in town will receive requests from the citizens that live on those roads. Although you made a very good observation. There are people that live on the road that see a lot and live with speeders or other as they try to walk or traverse with family down the road. The signs that were placed on Island Avenue and the additional signage and stop signs at the intersection were part of a study that was last year and was continued into this year with a discussion with some of the residents. When those stop signs were put in place, they're covered for a period of 30 days minimum, at which point we get people to get accustomed to that the change is there. They were unveiled this past weekend with also police presence there giving warnings just to educate the public to that intersection. That was addressed based on concerns of the citizens that live on that area, on that road, and the residents, and what we learned from our study and our traffic flows that we gather, information we get through our CAD system. So to answer that question, we did that. We placed in a request of the public after doing a study. And when we put signs, most of them are contingent upon some sort of study, either by this board or from state DOT. In the case of Island, Middle Beach West, up to Liberty, that was conducted by the state of Connecticut. Example, the signage by the beach club that tells you there's a curve ahead, the arrows, that's a request of the state DOT that we complied with. As far as the bushes that are overhang, I think I'll pass that on to the Public Works Department for sight lines. But once again, I know they sometimes have to wrestle with the homeowners on that because people don't want you to cut their trees. They don't want you to trim back their bushes. So I will convey that to the Public Works Director that they go through there. And a lot of the signs that we had placed there disappear. The signage about slow down for pedestrians, particularly in the area where Tunxus comes out, that disappeared, as well as signs marking the public parking there for the public access. We did replace the public access signs. I will look to put additional pedestrian signs there, but I can't guarantee they'll stay there. Generally, every year in the spring, we have to replace most of our signs along the beach roads. A lot of people don't want them in front of their houses, and they remove them.
Chief, I'd like to bring up the discussion we had. I don't know if you recall it or not, on Birnbaum Lane, how I would like to have that wide, to have a pedestrian walkway down there. And maybe you would like to convey that at some later date to your board.
Well, Birnbaum and East Wharf right now are under study. The DOT replaced the signage and the stoplights with a new system recently. And those are the ones you see up there with the cameras that record the traffic when it comes to the intersection to display the light, whatever appropriate light is for whoever's in traffic on the road at the time in that intersection. What I like them to do is that I agree with you about that becomes dangerous, particularly when people fly down Birnbaum and make in the same motion right-hand turn down East Wharf, not really looking to their left for traffic. I would like that to be somehow restricted with no left-hand turn. And please stop for stop sign there, because there was one at one time. I believe it's still there, but people, creatures of habit, it's very hard to change driver behaviors, and that seems to be the biggest problem. No matter what sign we put out there, people do what they do. We try to remind them by a police presence, but even that's limited. So what we're looking at for East Wharf, if it might continue, is that we are going to mark the curve. We're probably going to do as you said, 15 mile per hour on the curve, north and south. In a perfect world, I'd have one of the speed devices there prior to entering that. I only have 2 right now in the inventory. We're trying to acquire an additional 12. It's a discussion that's been ongoing. That request will be made to the selectmen, to the Board of Finance. So that's what's happening right now in that area you spoke of. As far as Liberty Street, where it meets Webster Point Road, where it meets the Greenway Trail, I went through it the other day. There's a stop sign on the Greenway Trail. There's a stop sign on Webster. There's a stop sign for Liberty, and it warns you of it ahead. Well, that's as the 20 some odd people on bikes went flying through the stop sign and entered the intersection, and traffic that was in motion had to stop very abruptly. We do the best practices we can as recommended from the state DOT. When we look and we equate that, we don't have a stop sign as you enter Liberty from Route 1 because the speed's too fast. The area that they would have to slow down to accommodate a full stop just past that island there at the end, there's not enough distance for them to react. So they entered that intersection without a stop. It's a 3-way stop. That was after a study with the DOT, and that was what was recommended. And again, a lot of that was generated by residents of Webster Point Road, of Liberty Street, and people that commute in that area or bike. So that's how we base when we look into something. We have 3 requests for this meeting here in other areas of town that we'll address probably tonight. That's how we operate it. And you and I have had a discussion in regards to Birnbaum Lane and the signage, if you recall.
Good.
Okay, well, I realize you gentlemen all have a hard problem getting the bikers, the walkers, and everybody else to work together. Hopefully, somehow they'll be able to do it, but we'll see.
Well, we will provide an update at next month's meeting, Mr. Birnbaum, as we keep a traffic log of this level of request, particularly on when you identify a specific area and intersection. So we will treat this as one of the traffic items that we will log in and then resolve to bring it to some level of closure. But thank you very much for your comments.
Thank you.
Great. Is there anyone else who would like to make a public comments at this time? Okay. Thank you. Chief, we'll turn it over.
We do have 2 hands that just came up.
Oh, okay, good. If you could identify yourself and be glad to accept you into the meeting.
Jim Ferenczi.
Yeah, hi, it's Jim Ferenczi. I'm on 47 CU Avenue. Thank you again for the constructive discussion that we had last month at the meeting with the police commissioners and Chief Drum and his colleagues. I just wanted to ask a big picture question to follow up on that, and I'm not sure if this is the right time to do it, and if it's not, we can defer it, because I'm not quite sure I know how these meetings play out, but just wanted to get a sense for, what additional thoughts, if any, the commissioners may have had since that discussion a month ago, or Chief Drum and his colleagues in terms of, addressing on a multi-pronged basis the ongoing car theft issue that's been plaguing Madison and some of the surrounding areas. So I just kind of wanted to put that out there and just see if now's the right time to have that discussion or if it's something you want to handle later.
Chief, sure.
Yeah. Captain, can you speak to the meeting you had with some of the residents in the last few weeks? with you and Lieutenant Mulhern as to how you're going to proceed with the, I believe it's to notify the public, remind them, a public safety type message.
You're muted.
You're muted.
Okay, so a couple of days ago, Lieutenant Mulhern and I met at the police department with some of the associations, and we came up with a way to inform the public some ideas. One was getting the digital signs that we used during COVID, and to strategically put them throughout neighborhoods with a message or a slogan to remind people to lock their doors and secure their valuables, etc. Another, let's see, one of the organizers, Nancy Karras, mentioned that she had reached out to 2M's on Wall Street to assist us with printing as far as signs and flyers. So we were in the process. The way we left it was we were going to, the group was going to come up with between 5 and 10 different slogans, and we were going to meet again to decide which slogans we were going to go with. We were going to use the digital signs. We were going to have those slogans printed on flyers, and that the police and or the associations would assist in putting those flyers in mailboxes. There was also a discussion of having a text alert at a certain hour through the town to see if that was a possibility. That was a suggestion. So say, for example, at 9 o'clock, and if you sign up for this notification, you could be you can receive a text message saying, just a reminder to lock your doors or lock your cars, etc. Whatever our slogan is. So we were basically coming up with ideas. We are in discussion right now, speaking with a printer at 2M's over on Wall Street to see if they can assist us. In our next meeting, which hasn't been scheduled yet, we are going to discuss, which slogans we're going to go with. So that's where we're at right now, but we have been working on it.
All right. Thank you, Doug. And I want to add that we earmarked $2,500 from the police budget to be put towards the public awareness program. I also, Andrew was on the call. Andrew Wood had a question, Mr. Chairman, and Jim.
Mr. Wood? You're muted, Andrew.
Andrew Wood from Seaview Avenue. I just wanted to say that, yes, we did have a very productive meeting with Lieutenant Mulhern and Captain Hawkins, and that he summarized that very well. My point is to hope that the Commission will support the police department in putting that campaign out, because we've got to change behaviors. And I would also ask whether it is possible to have more patrols in the vulnerable areas and where there are high theft incidents from 12 a.m. to 5 a.m., say 3 nights a week. But I just leave that. That's the question that we ask.
Okay. Thank you. Chief?
Currently, right now, as we've talked in previous meetings, we're down 4 officers. Although we're actively recruiting to fill that, we're also going to ask for additional officers with this pending budget year. I have to go with what's available on the shift. When I have the overlap, I'm able to put additional people in your neighborhood. But as I pointed out in previous meetings with you, with both Andrew and Jim, that we patrol that area, and if we have an event that takes a patrol off of the neighborhoods, that officer may not get back there until a later time. But it's a general patrol that goes through there on a regular basis. Again, sometimes I'm covering the town with as little as 3 officers on a midnight shift. And it would be, I could direct more personnel, but I don't have them at this time.
Well, look, this is one of the things that has come out of a number of meetings is both the utilization of resources and then, as the chief just highlighted, the availability of resources. So that is something this commission is going to be reviewing and considering further. We've tried to be as prudent and cost conscious as possible, but just looking at the expectations that regarding public safety and the situation that we have and regarding the police department, it is something we're going to be actively looking at as we go into the budget planning cycle here. So thank you.
One thing I might add is that Marietta and myself both know a number of the residents along Middle Beach, Seaview Avenue, and the area that's been affected with all these incidents. And I know, speaking just for myself and not Marietta, on a regular basis, I try and remind the people there that they have some responsibility as well for locking their cars, rolling up the windows. And I'm down there rather frequently, either walking by myself or with my dogs. And if I see a car that is open, I've knocked on the door several times to different residents and advised them to please lock their car or pay attention to what's going on to help us that way as well.
I have a quick question, and Tom, it definitely is great for us to lock our doors. I think the public safety aspect when you're leaving early in the morning is definitely a concern. The digital signs, I think, are great. Is there any way for us to maybe also display Madison Police on Patrol on those signs as well? Not just the slogan, but just to kind of alert even these drivers that might be coming through.
Well,
I'm sorry, Christine, who was that question directed to?
And utilizing these digital signs in other ways too, to deter some of these people from coming into our neighborhoods.
I'm not sure how effectively a sign would be. I mean, certainly, I think we're at a point where we consider all options. I think one of the things that has come up is that I think if someone is going to come in and test a neighborhood and consistently find that all the cars are locked, it's a wasted night going through certain areas in Madison because there just is a habit of safety and prudence. I think that may end up deterring some interested citizens who are interested thieves who are saying, we're going to go for greener pastures, because Madison is, both from the patrol point of view, from there's no more easy pickings in Madison. But I think everything we've got to find the right balance. As someone said, at some point, maybe you don't see the signs anymore because, you've driven past it for the 100th time. But I think the direct connection and engagement with the officers and with certainly with the associations is really a absolutely foundation to start building, I think, a cultural change, in some of these neighborhoods. So I think it's a good start, but I think we should consider everything. So if this is going to be a regular agenda item for us, I don't think this, like some other issues we deal with, I don't think this is necessarily a seasonal one. I think it's ongoing, and I think the only good news related to that is that we're going to stay at this and continue to try to put in place steps, even if they are incremental over a period of time. I think we can come up with a much more effective and aware public down there in terms of dealing with this issue. So, Chief, is there anything you want to do in terms of kind of, summarizing this issue in terms of where we are? Because it certainly is one that's a lot of people had some strong interest in.
We utilize tools that we're given to work with.
Mm-hmm. Good. Well,
Jim has his hand up again, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry to come back in again, but I do want to follow up on one point, actually, with Mr. Goldberg as the liaison from the Board of Selectmen to this commission. I just want to understand, Chief Drum said, or Andrew Wood just asked, is it possible to increase the patrols as one of the tools here? It's not the sole tool. There's a multifaceted approach. I think that's very constructive in terms of how it's being discussed. I had asked that same question that Andrew just asked at the last meeting, which is, can we beef up the patrols here to have more of a police presence, during these key hours? So it sounds like Chief Drum is planning to try to find more budget dollars in this next budget cycle to do that. And I understand that that's going to take time, and it's not going to be necessarily, a silver bullet to fix the issue, but it may help address the issue. How does the Board of Selectmen think about that whole thing? I mean, again, I'm not trying to get ahead of where we are with the Board of Selectmen, but we obviously are going to plan on having some discussions with you all also to express some of our issues and concerns. But how do we make that, if in fact Chief Drum comes with that request, which obviously some of us on the phone or on this Zoom think may make some sense and may help, how does that work with the Board of Selectmen, and how do you guys view that request? Or how will you view that request?
Jim, this is Al Goldberg. There are 11 key elected officials that have an impact here. Six of them serve on the Board of Finance, and 5 of them serve on the Board of Selectmen. Every year, the Police Commission comes forward with their budget and their requests for, which includes requests for staffing. And your elected officials seriously consider those requests and balance those off against other requests from, of course, all town departments. So in any given year, the budget represents what the Selectmen and Board of Finance feel is the proper balancing act for delivering town services and yet making sure the taxpayers are getting full value for their dollars. I think this incident, series of incidents that have happened over the past few years, help the Board of Police Commissioners justify asking for increased resources for patrolling in this town. I cannot predict what my fellow selectmen or Board of Finance members how they're going to react to this, but I think the case is exceptionally strong this year, Jim, and I think this will get the most serious consideration, and hopefully, as far as the Board of Police Commissioners is concerned, that the elected officials do call for more resources to be directed this way. I realize I haven't given you a very specific answer, and that is because I'm only one vote out of the 11. So I cannot, in good conscience, try to speak for the other 10. Let me end on this note, Jim. One of the things that most impresses your elected officials is when members of the public come out to speak in support of things like an increase in requests for funds for the police department. And so I would encourage you, Jim, and your neighbors and others who feel the same way, that when we do get into the budget process and we do have public hearings, we would love to hear from the public about your views on how we should develop the budget for the coming years. So I hope, Jim, you'll continue to be active and that you'll continue to speak up.
Thank you. That was very helpful. Thank you. Helpful and well said. Thank you.
Thank you. Chief, is there any, well, let me ask, is there any other participant who would like to comment at this time?
Not at this time, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Chief, can we move into your report, please?
Okay, I just wanted, before I start the financials, I just want to add that what was said by Al is that our budget generally, we predicated on need and not on wish, and we try to accomplish, we always seem to be doing more with less. I had a conversation today with the first selectman, and I was pointing out to her where we'd like to go with this year's budget, walking into next year's budget. Obviously, when 3 people retire and one's out injured, it's hard. I mean, we end up putting stresses on all of us. 3 of the managers that are on this call, we've worked shifts to cover it to avoid ordering people in. That's what it comes down to when I have to pay the overtime to order people in to cover shifts. I'm trying to find an innovative way with some of the part-timers to work in some of the hours during the midnight shift. There's no doubt we're going to make a request based on need for additional resources going into the next budget year. It's a process. There's also the process of finding the right candidates that will work and be the right fit for the town of Madison. So it's not an easy undertaking. So right now, we're going to cover with the resources we have. We're going to utilize some overtime to accomplish it. If we go over, we're going to have to explain it out, but I think we have more than enough justification for that. I just want to assure you, most certainly Jim and Andrew Wood, that that's what we're doing.
Good. Thank you.
Okay. Financials. Well, we're where we should be. A lot of it is front loaded for, we're paying for encumbered for contracts that we have, annual contracts, such as the range Marine with division with the town of Clinton, the range agreement with the town of Clinton, mutual aid in our sharing of the animal control center with both Westbrook, Clinton, and ourselves in the town of Clinton. Also, we share some of the radio system with the town of Clinton. Those expenses are done by annual agreement. We also have our next gen contract, which is our MDT, which is the computer aided dispatch you see in the vehicles. And it also is what puts together and gleans all our statistics and information and report writing. We also contribute an annual fee to the regional traffic squad and the emergency response team, the regional team. So that gives you an idea, a snapshot of what we spend up front every July 1st into August 1st for annual contracts. And that's where you'll see a lot of the expense that's encumbered within the first two pay periods. Other than that, I really don't have any more to add to financial. I did have a discussion though with Stacy Nobitz and HR. They have some adjustments to make in the current budget. I believe, Mr. Chairman, you and I spoke of that earlier in the week, and they're going to be accomplishing that I believe, post-audit.
Great.
I'm sorry.
Let me just make a comment, if I could, about this. One of the things that's it's certainly becoming apparent is that the very deep and thorough review of all town budgets, all town departments, but our focus is on the police department, and I've been really working with the chief and his assistant Holly Berkey to see if there's a way that we could summarize this budget information so that it's in a more digestible form for us who are providing some oversight. We don't need to know the specific dollars spent on one item. I think, on the other hand, it is our responsibility to have a clear grasp of where we are with budgets in terms of labor, vehicles, training, supplies. And so, the chief and Holly have looked at a way that we could put this budget together in a more clearer way so that, we can have some discussions and look at issues in terms of overtime and what is driving overtime and how does that relate to, the planned wage budget. So, as the chief said, we've gone through the year-end audit process, and there are some adjustments that finance makes in front loading the budget. But we hope by September and certainly by October, we will have, I think, a budget summary sheet that will allow us to have, I think, a little more productive discussions on what are the key drivers of our budget for the department. And also, I just would remind the commissioners, the chief also has the budget responsibility for the Animal Control Center and also for the Emergency Dispatch Center. So we do not get involved in overseeing the emergency dispatch budget, but those are significant dollars that the town is asking the chief to oversee and administer. So we will be focusing on the Madison Police Department, and I hope you'll see, next month at the very least, a draft and one that'll solicit your input in terms of, is it informative? Is it giving us the information we need to make some decisions? And, any discussion of assets is, we recognize those are important decisions, for the town residents. So stay tuned for that. It's on its way. We hope by the next month we'll be able to have at least a draft of it for you. Sorry, Chief. Go ahead.
Are there any questions from any of the commissioners in regards to the financials or the budget?
No.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, activity. Generally, the activity is we do by the quarter, but we're gonna. I asked that Captain Harkins also speak to some of the innovative activities that they've been doing in town, particularly enforcement and awareness to the public. Well, certainly the beach area is obviously crowded during the summer months. We've had a fairly successful summer and how we have been mitigating it. And I thank Captain Race and Captain Harkins, Lieutenant Perrin, and Lieutenant Mulhern for their diligence, and all the people we work with. We work with great people. But if you would, Doug, would you just speak to that a little bit of some of the programs we've done?
Okay, so just real quick, for the month of August, we have 207 traffic stops and 11 arrests. We have the stop signs, as the chief mentioned, that we put up down an island in Middle Beach. We had set some officers down there to have a police presence and kind of remind the public that these stop signs are now in effect, and no tickets were issued. It was more of an educational type thing, and so I think the public appreciated it. And now everyone's on the same page as far as the new stop signs downtown, down by the water. Again, when we discover a spot in town that we feel that there's receiving complaints on speeding and or reckless driving, what we do is we will assign an officer specifically to go to that area. Fortunately, we have Officer John Palmer, who was assigned to the motorcycle, and we can kind of move him into those areas to kind of help us handle some of those complaints that we've received. So the motorcycle is really working out well. For the month of, I think some of the last commission meeting when we spoke about locking doors and taking your key fobs inside, I think it's paid off. We've only had one stolen car for the month of, August so far. So we're doing well. And that's pretty much it.
Thank you, Doug. Any questions for the captain? Okay, thank you, Doug.
Okay.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Nope, go ahead.
Okay, we'll move on then to the training budget. Captain Harkins, before I do, I just want to commend your folks. I know we had the former Deputy Secretary of State that was in town for a period of time, and that you folks worked with the security team from the State Department. I thank you for what you folks have done, and you also, Joe Race, Captain Race, for your participation. All right, training. Captain Race, I know we're back to Zoom again as the practice for in-service, but could you speak to some of the in-services that we conducted during the month? And then from there, I'd like to just speak to the accident report, and we'll move on to our community calendar and the events we have planned.
Yes, sir. So training, as I kind of mentioned for the previous month, the summers, it's really hard to schedule out a training. Training's light in general, even the opportunities. So our SWAT team and our canines did their annual monthly training. We do have, every month we are reviewing one of our policies internally that usually doesn't show up here, but we are on pace for everyone to recert. About 2/3 of the department will be up for recertification on June 30th of 2022. And we are well on pace, and every officer is positioned to do that. Just a few more classes to knock out, but we're in a very good spot. Again, we've really been working hard in the past 18 months to leverage the online component as much as we can, as well as those in-person opportunities when they arise.
Thank you, Joe. Any questions on training?
Yeah, I've got a question. So, Joe, we were on Zoom, through June, and then we went, the training went in person for July, and now we're back to Zoom training again. Generally, is that what happened?
For some of it, we've been very fortunate to be using an online platform for our mandatory courses, and we've been using that very steadily throughout this entire process. We're going to continue to do that. It seems to be a very effective way to do the training rather than instead of taking someone off the road for a week and sending them away. We have it set up and with working with the sergeants and the lieutenants that officers rotate in and off the road for a 1 or 2 hour block once or twice a month to knock out those same credits. And then that then frees us up if we're going to try to get you into a training class. Then we can get into some of the more technically advanced and more practical style courses and really use our training budget in those resources and for the hands-on type training.
I'd appreciate it if you could pick a date, January 1, April 1 of next year, and conduct an assessment, with feedback from the training participants, as well as your oversight as to whether the training, some of this remote training is as effective, more effective, or not quite as effective as some in-person classroom. Because certainly, there's a certain school of thought that says, when you go through some classroom training, particularly at the professional level, you learn an awful lot from your fellow students. And again, I'm not criticizing at all. I'm just from a laboratory point of view, would appreciate kind of your assessment and, saying, 6 months into it, we did it for 6 months, we did it this way. How did it go? Just as good, better, or not quite as good? So if, I'd appreciate your analysis and feedback, as well as the participants from the department in terms of that process.
Yes, sir.
Good.
Mr. Chairman?
Yep.
Yeah, I had a discussion actually recently as today in regards to that training with a few of the officers. I think what they do is they miss the interaction, the interpersonal, and they're able to pursue a question or thought process. And a lot of this is information that's given statewide. And it's not there's very few courses that are interactive where they're talking like some of the advanced learning with colleges. So they do miss that. And I agree with you. I'm not sure what the value some of the training is that's not hands-on.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, look, they've got a lot of people on this call who have participated in work seminars and training programs and, annual professional meetings. And there is a basis of, the kind of information you pick up during a coffee break or during a sidebar discussion or, 15 minutes after the meeting has ended. And it just, again, we're all learning from this quarantine process. And, we have staked a lot of our future professionalism, with the Madison Police Department on the caliber of officers we hire and the training we continue to give them. That is going to be our differential, going ahead. So it's just something I think as a commission, should keep an eye on because, we're going to continue to say training is a big part of what we want to invest, in terms of the people part of this business. So anyway, enough said. Joe, look for your report whenever you think it's a good time to give it.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Chief?
All right, Joe, let's get to the monthly traffic report compiled by Sergeant Ewer.
Yes, sir. So traffic is obviously our summer is busier. And as you can see from the traffic report, we had 27 motor vehicle accidents for the month. Only 3 involving injuries, which is good, but it just shows, it's quite honestly, it's a daily occurrence of some sort of accident in town. So we just, would remind the public to slow down, especially as we get towards the end of the summer here. The main causes tended to be falling too close and unsafe movement. And And we had no DUIs and no DUI accidents and no fatal accidents in the month of July.
Thank you, Joe. And lastly, on the community calendar, I know we have a couple of races and events and bike activities planned. Can you just slightly go over those, please?
Sure. So the events coming up, as we get into September, on September 11th, we have both the JC's Triathlon. We'll start with that one. That kicks off at 7 a.m. from the Surf Club. That does span throughout a good portion of the town on the bicycle course. We've been working very closely with the JCs over the last few years to really get a solid traffic plan in place there for the least amount of disruption possible. But that'll be September 11th. That should be done by about 9:30, 10 a.m. Then shortly thereafter and throughout the afternoon, riders will start to come through town from the Closer to Free ride on their route back towards New Haven. And then as we get into the fall, we have one more ride, October 2nd, the Connecticut Grand Fondo. And then tentatively, we have the Trunk or Treat. As of right now, I would say we're returning to the green, but that, of course, is subject to change as everything has been. And then, the turkey trot coming up on Thanksgiving Day, of course, is already in the planning stages. But right now, those are the only events we have on the horizon.
Well, okay, thank you. Chief, presume we're regional shared services. We're not quite ready to reopen that subject as yet. So perhaps we'll just move to correspondence.
Okay, before, I don't have any correspondence to share at this point other than some traffic ones. On the regional services, I did have a discussion, a robust one, with some of our regional partners in regards to some of the mandates with the House Bill 6004 in regards to social services and the implementation of psychology or MSWs within the police department to respond to people in crisis. Because the cost could be astronomical for all the communities. You're talking approximately $100,000, $90,000 to $100,000 for hiring a town psychologist to work within the police department. So we're looking at some of the aspects and ways that we could probably share some of the services. So that was a discussion today with some of the regional partners we had. It also was a discussion with the subcommittee for Police Accountability Transparency Act task force, which we spoke to the possibility of how we would implement within a model for our town. We're fine-tuning that and moving forward on that, but that discussion, we may be sharing services with some of the other communities. That may be a better approach. So it's fluid right now. I don't have any hardcore information to give other than what we're looking at.
Well, as we've talked here, I think for several years, sharing and coordinating and partnering with services, absolutely makes sense from an expense. The things we've looked at, it does not result in a diminution of services or lower quality services. So these are some things that I know are going to be on our discussion agenda at some point in the future, probably the near future. So anyway, please keep us tuned in, Chief.
I will. Thank you.
Yep.
As far as correspondence, sir, we received 2 more letters in regards to traffic issues. John Iannaco, I believe, is on the call right now. So can we put him in as a participant? I think that Tom and I would like him there in the commission so we could have a robust discussion.
Okay. John, I guess you're there. Welcome.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes. Oh, John.
Okay. Don't have the video here, but I guess you can hear me.
You look fine, John.
Do I? I look better when the video is off.
Right. Well, is there, we had a number of traffic items, including some relating to signage. We've touched on some of them, a number of them already. Are there specific items that we are ready to bring some closure to? Or I know that as the chief mentioned earlier, some of them are clearly under an evaluation, an ongoing evaluation right now.
Are you asking me, Mr. Chairman?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, so I spoke today with DOT, and Tom, it was a concern you brought up last week also. I wanted to know when the project's going to be complete in regards to the paving from the town line of Guilford to the center of Madison. And John, that's in regards to basically the marking of the crosswalks and the lane lines and shoulder areas of Route 1 post paving. I know that project got pushed back a little bit because of some of the difficulties when they were paving, particularly during the hot weather. But when you drive through there at night, it's fairly dangerous. It's dark on the road, and there isn't any markings, and some people will stray left of center whether they're traveling east-west. So I asked them with some urgency, put some urgency to it to get it completed. So if you got a call from there, I'm the one who called them. I called up to engineering.
Okay, yeah, I have not received a call so far, but hopefully we'll get a call soon. Yeah, I don't know what is taking so long on the pavement markings. It's unusual.
Yes.
John, is there a possibility that you could be a little more proactive with the paving markings and that you could follow through on this perhaps even once a week until it's done? I think everybody knows where I live. And I have to tell you, sometimes I feel like I take my life in my hands just getting the mail out of the box. They come so damn close to the edge of the road because they're not paying attention.
Yes, I mean, I can certainly make some phone calls, and to DOT. I doubt I have any more clout than the chief does, but I can give that a try as well, and see if I can get a response.
I didn't mean to diminish the call. What I'm simply saying is that if make yourself a little bit of a nuisance, and sometimes they'll fix that, and also make sure they understand that is the major part of town where the traffic goes through. And it is dangerous. It's been unsigned and for a long time. And if there was a fatality and somebody came back and said, well, why didn't it happen? That's going to go right back to the DOT. So I would appreciate any help you could do with that.
Right. Absolutely. I will call the DOT, and I'll send an email too, and see if I can get a response.
Okay. There's something else in relation to traffic. We've put several new signs up in the area of the Beach Club and Island Avenue. And John, if you're traveling on Middle Beach Road going east, the new stop sign that's at the intersection of Middle Beach and Island Avenue, there's some trimming that needs to be done on both sides of that street, because coming down Island Avenue, the overhang for the branches diminishes anybody's ability to see that sign. And I would suggest that there's also several signs around town. I can talk to this with you later if you like the exact locations, but it would be appreciated when we put a new sign in place if they could look at all the surrounding areas, the trees, to make sure the sight lines and the visibility is clear, because right now they're not.
Sure, we can do that. So if it would be helpful if you can send me a list of all the locations. I know I've seen the signs and I'm aware of the locations of some of them, but it definitely would be helpful if you can give me the list, and we'll specifically go out and make sure those are trimmed.
Now, are those, John, were those signs installed by your department?
No.
They were done by the chiefs. Okay.
Yes,
okay.
And they were installed by the police department subcontract. You'll be receiving the pin maps for all those signs.
Okay.
So you can put them in your file. I just want to add, John, in addition, I asked the state that they make sure they cover all the MUTCD requirements for Route 1, and that includes with the crosswalk. I was trying to get a set of strobes out of them. They told me that's up in the air, but if you have a discussion with them, I beseech you to encourage them to do that and make it a lot more safer at the intersections, particularly by West Wharf, where it meets Route 1, and most certainly by the car dealership.
Sure. Yeah, I'll ask the DOT about that as well and find out what the status is. So that right now, are they're scheduled to do that work or no?
Well, he's making the calls for me. The gentleman I spoke with is Todd Angara, who's the district traffic engineer out of Pond Lily, which controls Madison. Because I also called in regards to permits for the breakaway signs for the speed signs they're putting up.
Okay.
All right. So he's aware of it. He was going to call and he's going to get back to me possibly tomorrow or later next week. I get the feeling they're also working from home. So I think it's probably going to be later in the week. But I just want to make sure that we bring closure to this.
Yes.
Okay, good. John, thank you very much. Your active participation is very helpful to have us both have a coordinated approach and make sure, you know, we're all in liaison or coordinated with as we move forward with some of these issues. I mean, as the chief explained, some of them sometimes the public is very skeptical when we can't address some of these issues in a kind of a timely way. So your participation is very helpful, and we appreciate you spending some time, you know, as requested, like for tonight's meeting. So thanks again.
You're welcome.
John, one other thing, if I may, do you have a copy of all the traffic reports? It's the last page. It comes in, it shows what's pending, what's complete, what.
The
I
traffic
don't.
log?
If you could send me that, or if those are on, you know, on the website
Yeah,
somewhere.
what I'd like to do is have the last page sent to you, because there are 6 items that are pending. And in the past, you and I were able to spend some time together and cross some of those off our list, because the first one goes back, you know, they all go back to 2020, some of them. And that's kind of you know, that's a blemish on the traffic record if people have been talking about problems in areas that are dated back a year and all it says is pending.
Yeah. Tom, I think that's a good suggestion, so we can bring some closure to it. I mean, one of the things why we started the log was to try to avoid having some of these items, you know, become having their 5th birthday celebration at the commission meeting. So I think if you could share that, that would be, you know, very helpful, so that we end up, you know, with something that's realistic. And some of these we know do take a long time, i.e. years. I mean, if we talk about, you know, exit 62 in New Road, I mean, we've been struggling with that issue because it requires coordination with the state for an extended period of time. But others, as you noted, you know, we can do this and within 6 weeks, 8 weeks, some of them even shorter than that. But I think it's a very helpful to have both John aware and, you know, you and he can discuss, you know, how do we get these things to the resolution file so that if it's raised again, you know, we don't have to go through a thorough long-term investigation. We've already done it. But anyway, it's a good idea. Thank you.
Yeah, there were 2 items that came in under traffic that didn't make the log. They came through the first selectman's office, letters that were written to first selectman and then passed along, I think, through the chief and then finally through us. One of them was about Route 1, the speed limit on Route 1 in certain areas. And in both cases, I called the gentleman who wrote the letters. In the first case on Route 1, I explained that was a state road. The DOT was responsible for that, but we could certainly follow up through that. The second one was about a stop sign in the area of Dudley Road and Cottage Road. And I drove down there today, and I'll call the resident to follow up on that, but there appears to be very good visibility where the stop sign is, because I went east and west and north and south and didn't have any problems. So I'll call him and see if there's a little more specificity that he can give to that. I didn't see a problem.
Okay. Okay.
John, can I ask a question?
Sure.
John, in regards to, you folks are patching up Cottage Road right now, aren't you, this week?
Cottage, they may be patching. I'm not aware of.
Yeah, I think they are.
Yeah.
They were there this morning when I was looking at the same intersection that Tom's talking about. That road does need improvement with some of the sight line, but the intersection is kind of staggered. It's an offset intersection. You come down from River Road, you come down by Dunkin' Donuts there, you enter, or you come up from where Windermere is from that area. So I think the best that we can do, and it's not a high-speed road, although some people do it. I think that the crossbar, the stop bar, and maybe enhancing the signs to, one of them was an old school type sign. I'm going to ask, I scheduled this week for on-site to take care of that.
Okay.
All right. I also scheduled with them on a request from Stony Brook, and not from the gentleman at Route 1 of Stony Brook, from residents about the problems they're having with trucks. When there's a diversionary route put out for I-95 due to crashes or DOT construction, whatever, and our Route 1 fills up, the truck drivers that are trying to do a diversion around it are looking at their GPS device, which is telling them to go north on Janice Lane or go north on Stony Brook, or up through by the Public Works Garage on Cops. So I can understand when I went out there, I looked at it, it's a very narrow road and the trees are hanging low. And I think that'll tractor trailer going up there is going to have a problem. So I don't think it's unrealistic that we post no through traffic on Janice or on the road of Stony Brook. I think that, and make sure that people understand that the truck route is by the Public Works Garage, because that's what it was designed for, to go into all the industrial areas. Can you give me some sort of feeling on that, what you think?
Yeah, so that does make sense. Preferably to have the trucks go up Cops Road and then onto Fort Path Road. There may be time, so there also may be times that trucks are looking to get to the area of, I guess, of Fort Path Road. That's the most direct route. So sure, I can see your point. If if the decision is made to post Janice and Stony to prohibit truck traffic, probably makes sense. The route from Cops Road, it's a wider road, and it's probably a better road to access that area.
The only exceptions obviously are up towards Mungertown, and then onto the ramp to go northbound, or come in as they leave the industrial area from that aspect, or the district down south of Route 1, or as they come through downtown Madison and try to get back on 95 north, and there's a diversion somewhere in the area of 79, so they either have to go out farther. I don't think it's unrealistic, that request of the neighbors. Yeah, I mean, I understand it's a quality of life. It's a narrow road. It's actually, the road needs repair. I was amazed at how broken up it is. And I can see all the trees that are hanging the limbs. So I could understand what their concern is, and I think that it's a very simple process. A little bit of education with maybe at some point patrols there. But I think that might solve the problem temporarily. Like I said, a lot of these traffic is from out of state. They jump off the highway. They're trying to find a way. Their GPS devices tell them go here, go there, and they're not intentionally. They're just following with the devices. But I think if we
right, I agree. I mean, so the first route they come to is going to be Mungertown Road. That's problematic because of the low railroad overpass or underpass.
Right.
So then the next alternative is to go Stony Lane, and it's a very narrow road, like you said. So
yeah, I think, John, you got a sense of the issue. Maybe as Tom noted, this is added to our traffic log, and we can just get an update once you've taken a look at it, and you and the chief maybe have a discussion before our next meeting. So I think it's a helpful suggestion. Lord knows there's still going to be issues, traffic issues on 95, no matter what. So we're going to have diversions at some point in the future. Anyway, anything else we need to do? I think that's it for traffic. Tom, you set?
I have nothing else.
Okay, good. Thank you. New business. Chief, are there any issues you need to bring from a new business point of view?
Not at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. COVID updates. I think I noted we seem to have drifted back a few steps in terms of our public access. The police department, the facility is, we're now, require mask vaccinations or not vaccinated. So, we are into a little more unsettled time, at least in terms of the, the public safety and how our officers respond. So as the situation changes, particularly relates to facilities, we'll communicate it, but it's turn on your TV and hear what the new guidelines are. So, Chief, regarding liaison with the state agencies, I know you've been very active with several of the key committees you're on for the state. Is there anything pending that we should be alert to?
We voted on to forward to general law some of the changes associated with primary stops and secondary stops for policing. Also, we get ready to accept some of the strategy suggestions for dealing with the disability community, disabled community, and those with special needs. That's going forward. Those are 2 meetings this past week I had. And that's all I have to report at this time.
Okay. Thank you. You said we have no correspondence. Commissioner comments. Tom?
The only thing I'd like to add is that several residents have come back since we had this last meeting with Jim Ferenczi about what was going on in the Seaview area. They've come back and they've been very complimentary to the department for, one, just paying attention initially and the response they got out of the meeting, and then the follow-up by the chief and both captains who have ever been assigned to this, and Lieutenant Mudlord. People were to some degree quite surprised that everything happened so quickly, and kudos and thank you to the department for doing this.
Good, thank you. Marietta?
No comments tonight. Thank you.
Ann?
No comments. Thanks.
Okay. Christina?
No comment.
Okay, and I, my only comment is kind of I don't want people to think this is bad news, but I would like to have us go into executive session, very brief executive session, just to provide update on a legal matter that you need to be made aware of. And so that is my only bad news comment from the timing and taking a little bit more of your time. I promise you, we will not be an extended meeting. And if we could again utilize you as the Zoom host, because you charge less than Captain Race does in terms of any executive session meeting. So if we could go there, and
Sure.
Al, we'd certainly invite you to participate as well if you're able to. Okay, so is there a motion to adjourn our regular meeting and go into executive session?
I'll make the
I move-
motion. I'll
Okay.
second.
Second,